I am extremely honored to be here with you this afternoon to announce an important initiative, the launch of an international coalition to accelerate the deployment of sustainable infrastructure in Africa. $1.4 billion financial commitment. Over the next 4 years, the Subnational Climate Fund Africa will first commit up to $350 million US, which will in turn mobilize public and private co-investment to reach a total of $1.4 billion in partnership with African Sovereign Wealth Fund, Afreximbank, and private investors from the AfroChampions Initiative. The major step forward in climate finance implemented by R20 Regions of Climate Action and BlueOrchard Finance, who have initially designed Subnational Climate Fund Africa, has received support from the Green Climate Fund, the European Union, and the Global Covenant of Mayors. With this initiative, we expect to further innovative clean technology and low carbon projects in Africa, while providing our rapidly urbanizing continent with an ambitious roadmap to cleaner growth. Secondly, projects targeted at those with expected higher impact on populations. In practice, we are talking about programs of direct interest to the African population and focused on improving public health, access to energy, waste management and recycling, and street lighting. These projects will be implemented in urban and suburban areas in the least developed countries of the continent. Each project will be developed in close collaboration with the relevant local authorities and will have to respond to one or more of the Sustainable Development Goals in order to be selected. I will invite the representatives of the Afreximbank and the AfroChampions Initiative to detail the financial and economic aspects of this project. For my part, I would like to stress that it is primarily an African initiative designed by Africans for our continent and aligned with previous African efforts. Indeed, the new coalition very well complements other African projects, and I am especially thinking about the Pan-African Alliance for Climate Justice, founded 10 years ago in South Africa, about the group of African leaders for energy launched in 2015 under the auspices of sustainable energy for Africa. Let me also talk about Africa Renewable Energy Initiative, started at the COP21 in Paris, thanks to the efforts of the African negotiations led by Malian Ambassador Seninafu, in order to raise funds for to finance renewable projects on our continent. All of this work helped us to get a better understanding of our continent needs in terms of sustainable infrastructure, and learn to speak with one voice at the international level. The new coalition will be game changer with regard to projects financing, which is the critical issue. We have learned from early efforts, and we are moving forward rather than continuing with a dispersed approach, looking at projects one by one and searching for money once each project is designed. We will work to secure initial funding to launch multiple projects meeting key criteria in more thoroughly and consistent way, and the funding will be even sounder as it will come from different sources. The Subnational Climate Fund Africa, the institution or private investment of the continent, and the banks. The more numerous the stakeholders involved are, the bigger the pool of funds. This is essentially because Africa, given its extreme vulnerability to climate change, can no longer afford to wait. I could further speak about Africa's extreme vulnerability to climate change, describe our commitment, describe our coastlines, increasing threat by floods, remind that access to clean energy, just like waste management, is essential, both for better health and for economic development. Africa has to address climate change impact and faces a specific challenge, remaining green while growing. Africa should therefore work with international partners, and we will lead by example with our coalition. That is the very reason why we are attending this One Planet Summit, to show where we are and where we want to go, not by ourselves alone, but with the rest of the world that are concerned for the situation that we find ourselves as far as climate change is concerned. I would like to thank all the coalition founding members for making such a bold statement for Africa. And I look forward to the first progress report, which should be presented at the next Africa Union Heads of State Summit in February next year. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention, and this is the way we are going. Thank you.
Thank you. I won't be long. I'm Mr. Bachili Samba, CEO of Solectra. Solectra, for those who don't know, is a renewable energy company present today in more than 18 countries in Africa. So far, we installed more than 1,600 cities in Africa. It's so far, by local company, the most biggest achievement in terms of rural electrification. Your Excellency, Mr. Obasanjo, former president of Nigeria, and also patron of the AfroChampions Initiative, that's bringing me here today. The AfroChampions Initiative is an advocacy group of business that was co-founded by Edem and me a couple of years ago, exactly 2 years. And Mr. Obasanjo is the patron, and our chairman is Aliko. What we trying to do here with our other partner, that's Afreximbank and Air 20, is to put up a fund that will invest in the climate action. Because so far, what we have been seeing is that mainly we have funds coming from outside. So we decide as African to also be part of that movement. So at least we are not only beneficiary, we are also actors of the thing. So that's why we decide to set up a fund. And in the coming month, we'll coalesce the other partners, like of sector, private sector, to put up this fund of original for 350 million, but our target is 1.4 billion. We want to close that fund in January during the African Union Summit. So after me, the representative of Afreximbank, who's Africa Trade Finance Bank, will mention about their participation. But the main idea is to make sure the private sector in Africa is taking part of the climate action movement. That's the main goal. So far, we did our part, and my company commits $5 million to this movement. to quick start the fund. So I won't take long since I know that we don't have too much time. But what you should return from that is that we are creating a fund between private sector, bank, and also some financial institution in Africa. I will leave the floor to Mr. Sanya from Afreximbank, who just arrived. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Ibrahim Sanya. I'm the global head for advisory and capital markets of a bank based in Africa called Africa Import-Export Bank. Our short name is Afrexim. We are 25 years of age. We were created by the Africa Union and the Africa Development Bank. Today we have a balance sheet of about $12 billion. Our modus operandi is enhancing trade across the continent with a philosophy and a strategy focused around improving intra-Africa trade and industrialization at this stage of the development of the continent. We have the benefit of having about 50 of the 54 African countries as participating members, and they are the majority shareholders of our bank. The balance of the shareholders include international parties, but before the international parties, you have African corporates, such as the Dangote Group, the Africa Development Bank, TDB, another trade bank, and the South Africa Eximbank, and an investment manager of a prestigious status called PIC from South Africa. On the international side, you have investors such as Citibank, Standard Chartered, HSBC, and a host of Exim banks from the emerging markets, including the China Import-Export Bank, the India Import-Export Bank, the Russia Import-Export Bank, and others. And about a year ago, the bank went under the process of listing its shares in an African-based stock exchange, the one from Mauritius. And in fact, yesterday, in this lovely city of New York, we won the prestigious award of Best Africa Listing of the Year in 2018. And any of you can buy shares. We are here with the great privilege to be part of this effort with His Excellencies and many, many, many leaders. And the reason we feel that and felt it was important to join force in this venture was because of the capital importance it carries for the continent going forward. It's part of our mandate to support such efforts, and the partners involved are the right partners to make this have the longevity it needs. It is a great privilege to be part of it, and we invite all of you to provide all forms of support you can for it, because the continent needs it.